Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Divorced Woman's Guide podcast. How are you guys doing today? I hope that you are having a wonderful, wonderful day. And I just want to start by reminding you guys to check out my Facebook group, The Divorce Rehab, where I've got some really great insights and an amazing community of women that you guys get to connect with during what I think is one of the loneliest times of your life. And also, don't forget to hit subscribe so that you don't miss a single episode, because I have one that comes out every single week. And I'm excited that you guys are here today because I want to talk to you guys about a topic that I get asked all the time. And that has to do with how is it that we get to create a really positive and strong relationship with our kids, both while we are going through divorce as well as on the other side. And the thing that I hear the most with what my clients say is that they are so terrified of what is going to happen to their kids, knowing that they are getting a divorce. And if you guys are anything like me, I was ready to stay in my marriage just so that my kids wouldn't have to go through a divorce. I didn't want them being in a broken home. And over time, I realized that staying for them was not a reason to stay, and that what I got to do instead was to really focus on not only figuring out who it is that I became as a result of what was our family dynamic breaking up looked like, but what I also got to figure out was, what does my relationship with my kids get to look like? And what is so incredibly important when you guys are going through divorce, and you're going to want to make note of these tips that I'm going to give you guys. First and foremost, okay, the first thing that I'm begging you guys to please be conscious of in ensuring that you are creating a strong relationship with your kids is not bashing their other parent in front of them, being really conscious about what it is that you are saying when they are around about their other parent, because at the end of the day, our kids are a part of both of us. So when our children are hearing us speaking ill of their other parent, they internalize that as perhaps something's wrong with them. And then they feel like they're in the middle, or they feel like they're going to be made to feel bad if they still love the other parent. And that's not the place that we want to put our kids. It adds to their own stress as they're trying to navigate this, because remember that they're having their own experience too. And it's super important that you make sure that their experience gets to be what it is, and it's not going to be impacted by whatever your experience is. Okay, the next thing that I want to make sure that you guys are doing to ensure that you create a really strong relationship with your kids is making sure that you are not asking your kids questions that are leading down the path of digging about what your ex is up to. So there's a difference between asking your kids, how was your weekend with your other parent, versus, so what did dad serve for dinner? Or, so what did mom do with you guys while you were there? So do you hear the difference? It's really about connecting with your kids around what their experience is and connecting with them when they get home. This was something I struggled with, because I was in charge of our schedule. I was in charge of the food that they took in. And so one of the things that I worked really hard on was making sure that when my kids came back home, that I was connecting with them in a way where they felt like I had an interest in what it was that they were doing. And so I invite you guys to figure out what that gets to look like, what those questions get to be that you talk to your kids about. And when they bring up something that the other parent did with them that either is cringeworthy inside of you, or you're like, oh my God, you stayed up so past your bedtime, just take it in and just listen. Let your kids have their own experience. As long as they're coming back to you happy and healthy, honestly, that is really what we want for our children. The other thing that I want to tell you is that tip number 3 is that just because your kids are with their other parent, it doesn't mean that you don't get to still stay connected with them. And I know that depending upon how old your kids are and if they have devices or not, that sometimes that can be a challenge. And you have a right to connect with your children when they are at your ex-spouse's house. And so there was a time where I remember my younger son didn't have a device and I would always have to go through my ex-husband. And so in order for me to make sure that I was not having to talk to my ex to get to my youngest son, I would set up a time where before he went to bed that we would, have a FaceTime so that we could connect before he went to bed. And it's just really important that we're still involved. I always say that just because you may be sharing custody, right? It may be 50-50. You are a parent 100% of the time, regardless of what the percent of your custody is. And you have a right to still stay in connection with and to be in contact with your children. And it's so important that they still feel like you want to be a part of their life, even when they're at their other parent's house. And you are still a very important part in their life, and that you are somebody that they are interested in still having a relationship with, but remembering that the relationship that you create with your kids gets to be outside of the relationship that they have with their other parent. So, the last thing that I just want to leave you guys with is that so many times we try to send messages with our kids to the other parent. And I'm going to invite you guys to really figure out or to think about if that's something that you guys are doing. And if it is something that you guys are doing, to be conscious of it, be aware of it. And instead of having your kids be the messenger, pick up the phone, send an email, send a text message to communicate that information. Don't put that weight on your kids, because that is something else that your kids are feeling friction about, right? So it's like, oh God, I got to tell dad this, and oh God, I got to go home and tell mom that. So our kids, when they are relaying messages, makes them feel like they're in the middle, or perhaps that they need to take sides, which only contributes to a really unhealthy relationship with your kids. So I would love to hear what you guys think about these tips. I know that these have worked wonders for me because my relationship with my boys is so much stronger than it's ever been. And we are all going through so much loss as we're navigating divorce. But the biggest loss to a parent is not having a relationship with your child, and vice versa. So remember that you are an example. They're watching you. They listen to everything. And you want to make sure that you are showing up in a way that is going to really instill in your children a sense of understanding, caring, love, and commitment to having a really strong relationship with them, irregardless that they are half of your other parent. So again, share whatever it is that came up for you in this episode with me. I'd love to hear it. And as you know, I try to give you guys some really good nuggets of information to help you navigate wherever it is that you are in your process. And most important is your relationship with your kids. At the end of the day, they are a product of what I say is what was best in your marriage, and you get to foster and love on that part of them and that part of your marriage that gets to be kept alive and well through them. So hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Sending you so much love, light, and joy as always. Mwah. Bye, everybody.